Talking about women's basketball history is my favorite way to cure the Monday blues, and legendary Kansas women's basketball head coach Marian E. Washington is here to talk all about her coaching career, including her time at Kansas as an administrator, her journey to the Olympics in 1996, and more. Locked On Women's Basketball starts now.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and happy Monday. You are Locked On to Women's Basketball. I'm Natalie Heavren, and I'm a features writer and the Atlantic 10 beat reporter for The Next. Thanks for making Locked On Women's Basketball your first listen every day. And remember, Locked On Women's Basketball is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. If this is your first time listening to Locked On Women's Basketball, we at The Next have over 100 reported pieces every single month. We have a beat reporter on every single WNBA team, one on more than 15 different NCAA beats, so get that YouTube subscription up. And you can also support us by subscribing to The Next for $9 a month or $72 a year at thenexthoops.com. Today, I'm joined by legendary Kansas head coach and author of the book, Fierce, My Fight for Nothing Less, Marian E. Washington. We talk all about her coaching career, including her time at Kansas as an administrator and her journey to the Olympics in 1996 in the second and final part of my conversation with her. How did you get your start in coaching, and what kept you motivated to keep coaching?
I can remember I was on a trip to South America, and a teammate of mine, Ellen Mosier, she was a standout shooter in Iowa. In fact, she might even be in the Iowa Hall of Fame. We were in an airport just waiting, and we joked about one day, when we were not athletes, that we would become coaches. Of course, when you're that young and you're playing, you don't think about not being able to play. But we teased each other and we said, hey, we're going to become coaches, and then we're going to compete against each other, and one's going to win and the other one is going to lose a lot. The fact is that after my playing days, I found myself going back to graduate school, and I was given the opportunity to help in 1972 with the women's basketball team. And that was exciting for me because I had been playing overseas, and I felt like I could bring a lot to help give these young people from my experiences. And then in 73, I took the program over. What got me excited and what kept me striving in that field is that, I had a vision for women's athletics at Kansas, and I truly celebrated, was in awe of the men's programs. The whole country knew about the Jayhawks, whether it was basketball, track and field back then too, and football wasn't as much, but our entire men's athletic department was really one of the top programs in the country. And I really felt that there was room for women, that, we were capable of developing excellence and bringing positive attention to the university as well. And so I kept that vision in my heart, and I did not permit anything to discourage me. I was going to make it happen, I felt, no matter what. And that's what I tried to do.
And what was your favorite part of coaching?
Well, it wasn't always recruiting, I can tell you that. Most coaches will tell you that. Recruiting back then was pretty difficult. Today with NIL, it's I'm sure very different. But I just loved, practices, and I definitely enjoyed on the court coaching against other competition because, it was like a chess game for me. And, the more talent you had, the advantages you had. I just felt that very, very blessed to have had some of the talent that came to our program to believe in me and the university. And we had some exciting times.
And one of the quotes that stuck out to me, and there were a lot, but potential with no coach is not a formula for success. And that was in reference to your time as a field athlete and trying to make the Olympics. But how did you help cultivate your players' potential and support them?
I always talked about, when you are working with a young person, it's like going into a dark closet. You have to try to find that switch. You want to turn that light on. And I worked real hard to get to know my players. And as a result, I think that for the most part, I found ways to help motivate them. And it had to be, for me, more than just them playing the game. I emphasized education like most of our coaches do. It was very important for me because a lot of my players came from families that had not had anyone go to college, so they were the first. And I wanted them to help bring about changes in their families, and it was also important for them to become as disciplined in what they say they wanted to accomplish as possible. And so I spent a lot of time with them, talking to them. And as a result, as I mentioned earlier, they were totally committed, and they really believed in our program, and they were proud of being Jayhawks. And so we had some great years where we were able to compete against some of the best programs in the nation. Again, we didn't always have as many of the All-Americans as some of the programs did, but we had some tenacious competitors that really did well for us. I had four All-Americans, and a WNIT All-American and 3 Kodak All-Americans, and so there was something that attracted them.
And I'm sure part of that was you. And you talk about some of that early recruiting in your book, but how did players in your early days at Kansas change the trajectory of Kansas women's basketball as a whole?
Well, I only wanted players that I could identify with and who could identify with me, and I was a competitor. It didn't matter what. In fact, some of my players today will joke about, if you're going to play a game of cards with coach, you got to be careful because I like to win, and I wanted players that really wanted to win, to be successful. Let's put it that way. We weren't always going to win, but I wanted them to feel like they put it all out on the line, and that was the kind of player that I went after. And so, because of that, I think we got some really outstanding young people in.
Coming up next, Marian E. Washington talks about her time as an administrator at Kansas and the legacy she hopes she left behind, as well as her journey to finally making it to the Olympics. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. And the WNBA playoffs are about 2 weeks away, but there is still plenty to bet on FanDuel. You can bet on individual games like tomorrow night's matchups between the Minnesota Lynx and the Atlanta Dream, the New York Liberty's game against the Dallas Wings, and the Connecticut Suns rematch against the Los Angeles Sparks. You can also build your own parlay as well. In addition, you can bet on who will win the WNBA championship this season, as well as who will win Finals MVP. Just visit FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook. Today's episode is brought to you by Magic Spoon. As a kid, I loved eating cereal. I thought that was the peak of my cereal consumption, but then I found Magic Spoon, a nostalgically delicious cereal that tastes just like my childhood favorites, but without the sugar and with a ton of protein. Every serving of Magic Spoon cereal has 13 grams of protein, 0 grams of sugar, and 4 grams of net carbs, so you can feel good about what you're eating. The most popular flavors are fruity and cocoa, and there's so many more. Magic Spoon's brand new treats are crispy, crunchy, airy, and an easy way to get 11 grams of protein on the go. And for the first time ever, Magic Spoon treats are available in grocery stores with delicious flavors like marshmallow and chocolatey peanut butter. I love the Magic Spoon treats because of their delicious flavor, crispy texture, and great macros. And I love eating Magic Spoon at every time of day, including as a midnight snack. Get $5 off your next order at magicspoon.com/lockedon or look for Magic Spoon in your nearest grocery store. That's magicspoon.com/lockedon for $5 off. Magic Spoon, hold on to the dream. Thank you for making Locked On Women's Basketball your first listen of the day. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On NBA podcast. There is no offseason in the NBA, and Locked On NBA provides daily basketball analysis from national and local experts in 30 minutes or less. No one keeps you as informed and entertained as Locked On NBA. Available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Not only were you involved in the women's basketball program, you started the women's track and field program and was the program's first coach. You did so many other things in your early days in the administration at Kansas. I could probably spend the rest of the podcast listing them. But what were those early days like where you had to wear a lot of hats as you laid the foundation for women's sports at Kansas?
Well, that and trying to raise my daughter on top of it. I look back and I say, as I mentioned earlier, I'm so happy I was able to do it as a young person, because when I think about it, I'm exhausted just thinking about it today. But, again, I came from such a great experience in track and field, and I recognized how great our men's track and field program was at Kansas, but we didn't have a track and field program for the women. And I couldn't find a track and field coach. And so I decided, I needed to get it started right away. And I decided to go ahead and coach it. To coach it and be an administrator and to coach women's basketball, it took a lot. It took a lot. But, I love the university. I really believed that our women's program deserved to be supported. And I just thought, there was no such thing as giving up. I just had to keep pushing.
And when you look at Kansas now and how much it has grown and that foundation that you built in the early days as an administrator there, what do you think now that it's been a few decades and it's continued to grow?
Natalie, I am just in awe. I have to tell you. Our athletic director, Travis Goff, and Nicole Cochran, the deputy administrator, they have just done an incredible job in building our women's program. I go in there and I'm seeing facilities that just would compare to just about any in this country. Our women, they're having opportunities to get uniforms and to travel the way they need to travel. They have scholarships. We had to set up bag lunches for our women. Our women, after a game, would have to go across the street or to the dorm in order to shower. My halftime early on was in the women's bathroom. And so I would be in there and I'm talking to my players, and someone, some fan might come in, and there you go. Today I go into the coach's office, and Coach Snyder is able to look out his back door, and he's able to see a practice court. That's amazing to me. my office, when I got started as athletic director, my office, I could almost stretch my arm out and touch both walls. It was made of concrete walls, a small window, and everything outside of my door was for coaches coming in and out. And to see the wonderful offices for not just the head coach, but for his assistant coaches, it just does my heart good. I'm just really proud of Kansas. I'm proud of what they've done. And I'm so thankful that our young women today, certainly at Kansas, but just nationwide, that they're able to enjoy what they deserve, in the way of support.
And what legacy do you hope you left at Kansas?
Well, I'm just so proud that I was able to contribute to this, when you're doing it, you don't think that much about it, but I'm able to look at my great granddaughter, who is recognizing my voice now. She's quite almost 1,000 miles away, but she's now beginning to recognize my face on FaceTime, and she's listening to my voice anymore. But she's going to be able to come visit the University of Kansas. She's going to see a suite that was named after me, Marian Washington suite for women's basketball. She's going to see that and be proud of it, hopefully. And all that will hopefully encourage the future children, grandchildren, great-grands to want to continue their education and set goals for themselves, and be successful in life.
And, we've talked a lot about your playing experience, your time at Kansas, your start in basketball, but we haven't talked about your long journey to the Olympics. If I think it was 3 different sports you tried and got various levels of close to making the Olympics as a player. Can you just talk about your journey to finally making the Olympics as a coach in 1996, as you mentioned earlier?
Yes. Of course, it started out watching on a small black and white TV, watching Wilma Rudolph, that relay where the U.S. was behind, and she came from nowhere and managed to bring us the gold medal, to just having that desire planted in my heart. What is the saying? If you can't see it, you can't be it. I saw that, and I just wanted to be that. And then I found myself being talented enough to compete at a very high level in several different sports. Track and field started out being my sport, with hopes that I was going to be able to make the Olympics. I again, not having a really strong field event coach made it difficult for me. That was, by the way, one of the reasons why I ended up at Kansas. The name Al Order,
Mm-hmm.
4-time gold medalist. He competed for Kansas. He was in New York. I was a high school athlete, and I had the chance to go to New York and compete up there. And he was competing up there. The men and women competed together. And he was willing to work with me for a week. And so I found a way to stay over in New York. And he told me after the week was over with, I had potential. And if I ever got to Kansas, I should look up his college coach. And of course, I'm in Pennsylvania, and I'm in high school, and there's no way in the world I would ever think that I'd end up in Kansas. But I did. And then basketball, making my first U.S. national team. I'll never forget the moment that I was sitting in a corner, and I was listening to the names that were being called, and I thought, oh God, this is not going to happen for me. and one name after another. And finally, I knew there was only going to be one more name to be called, and it was mine. And I never realized that she was going in alphabetical order. And so that was a thrill. But in 72, when we were supposed to be introduced to the Olympics, they forgot about us. IOC forgot about us, and they overscheduled the men's program. And so we left out of our coach's home, Alberta Lee Cox's home, just devastated. We had spent time together training, and we were not going to be in the Olympics. So that was a disappointment. And then, as I mentioned, I got back in the track a little bit, but then the handball, I really think that had the United States had more time developing the handball program, I think we would have had a shot qualifying. But we did try and fell short. So I thought, okay, that's it. I'm not going to worry about it anymore. Let me just stay focused on trying to build this program. And then it was, I guess, 95 when I got the phone call from Tara, and she basically asked me to sit down and asked me if I would like to be on her coaching staff. And I thought, dear God, all this time, and finally, I am going to be a part of an Olympic experience. And I have to thank her. I will always thank her for giving me that opportunity.
Coming up next, Marian E. Washington talks more about her Olympic experience and what she hopes is next for women's basketball. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Growing up, I loved learning new things and always had my nose in a book. As an adult, I just don't make time to learn new things like I used to, and I feel like I've lost that sense of wonder. Therapy can help you reconnect with your sense of wonder because your back-to-school era can come at any age. Going to therapy has been so helpful for me, especially as I've gone through a lot of life transitions over the last year. I've learned a lot of positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It's also empowered me to be the best version of myself. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedonnba today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedonnba. And just a few months ago, Team USA won its 8th consecutive gold medal, and you were a part of that 1996 gold medal winning coaching staff. What emotions do you remember feeling when you were part of the Olympics and then now watching them on TV, continuing that success?
Well, we need to applaud what Tara did. Tara Vanderbilt from Sanford. She gave a whole year to building the women's basketball pro team. We had lost the Olympics previously, and so it was so important that the United States get back on top. And so she took a whole year with this team, and it was a turning point for women's basketball because the NBA got involved. And so you saw commercials with women for the first time, really. So, Lisa Leslie and Cheryl Swoops, Dawn Staley, they were on TV and people were beginning to recognize them. That was a real important turning point in helping the WNBA get off the ground. So in 96, when I became a part of that staff, to see these young women that handled themselves so well, representing this country so well, I was just so proud of them. And I mean, there was no question that they were going to win the gold. They were so committed. And to watch them, take the stand and to hear the national anthem and to watch them get their gold medal was just a thrill. I was able to have my granddaughter, who does not remember being there, but I can remember my granddaughter was there. My sister was able to attend, and my mother, I got her out there. So, uh, it's something I'll never forget, and I thank God for all of that.
And what was that family support like? You mentioned your family a lot in the early parts of the book and then continued throughout, and just mentioning them again with the Olympics. What did their support mean to you over the years and all the twists and turns of your career?
Well, my family means a lot to me. My father, as I mentioned, he was one of the first girl dads. I mean, my dad was born in the 1800s, so he was early in um, in his commitment. He just never felt that there wasn't anything a woman couldn't do. Um, I think that once I got involved with the administration at Kansas and all the ups and downs, I never really talked to my family about my challenges because I didn't want them worrying. We're 1,000 miles apart, and I didn't want that to be something that they thought about every day. But anytime they could be, at an event or they heard about something that was, that I was being honored somehow, they were just very proud. And my mom, uh, before she passed, I was able to bring her to live with me in Kansas. And if you look at YouTube, the 25th anniversary, she's on there. They ask her the question, did you teach Marian something like, did you teach Marian what she knows today? Oh, I taught her everything. And I had to laugh about it, but she was very proud. She was at all my games there. She was able to travel places that I'm sure she never thought she would, from Hawaii to, all up and down the West Coast. Um, and I'm really thankful. I'm sorry that my father wasn't able to be a part of, being able to share in much of the success later in my life. But my mom certainly did. My sister, particularly my sister Kathy, she was one of my big cheerleaders, and you know, um, what they knew, they were happy with. Again, I just really tried to keep things limited in terms of the ups and downs that I had to go through.
Mhm. And going back to the Olympics, what did finally making it to the Olympics mean to you after you started the journey to that dream so many years prior?
Well, I believe in God, and to think about my journey, where I came from being a young kid in Westchester to going to college. I was the first in my family to go to college, to then end up at the University of Kansas, major institution, um, and then to making the Olympics. I just had to thank God. I had to pray, Natalie, so often throughout my challenges, particularly while I was athletic director, because I was facing things that didn't always know how they were going to work out, but I believed that they were going to. And when I sit back and I look at how my journey has gone, truly, I believe that God has directed my every step, and whether they, I had to go through some ups and downs, He kept me going, and I'm just truly thankful.
And I know I've asked you a lot of questions. I just have one more left,
You're
but
doing a
it's a
great
big
job.
one. What do you hope is next for women's basketball?
Oh my gosh, what is next? You know, Women's basketball has just grown so, and Caitlin has done a fantastic job in um, just bringing so much excitement and attention to the sport. To watch the different arenas be packed and people knowing names of all these athletes. to watch the athletes display their excellence on that court, and to know that it's only going to get better. It's just really amazing, and I'm so happy. I'm happy for the athletes today and their coaches and the families, that their families are able to come out and experience the joy of watching their daughters and cousins, nieces, and out there just performing and just enjoying themselves. I mean, it's what we deserve, and it's been a long time coming, but it has finally gotten here. And again, it can only get better. It's just going to continue to grow, and we just need to be very happy for the kind of players that we have now in the WNBA. I think that they're carrying themselves very well. I think they're well spoken, and I think that they know, it's more than just being out there performing. It's about helping people, appreciate what they're seeing, and be excited because they're also the fact that they're working so hard out there. The game is exciting, the women's game is exciting, and I'm just glad I'm around to see it.
Well, thank you for joining me. And I had a great time with our conversation, and I'm sure our listeners will enjoy it as well.
Natalie, thank you. I really appreciate you giving me the time. And, I haven't mentioned my book very much, but I'm very thankful that you have read it. I just hope that more people will look for it and maybe, try to get a copy of it. Hopefully they'll enjoy it too.
Thank you, listeners, for making Locked On Women's Basketball your first listen every day. Now, go check out the Locked On NBA podcast where the season never ends, providing national expertise with a local perspective. You can find the link to Locked On NBA in the description so you don't need to search. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And make sure to tune in this week to hear from Howard, Jackie, and our WNBA draft crew.